Good morning and welcome to another ironic introduction to another video. Today I pulled the Thing in a 5-star crystal and I was very excited. I would have been more excited except he was sandwiched between a Stark Spidey and a Phoenix. But the Thing is still an absolutely amazing champion. I was super pumped to get, and he has a lot of offensive ability, especially for someone like me who is still building up their roster. This guy is an absolute powerhouse and this is the definition of a noob friendly champion. You know, better if played well, but has a lot of like mechanics in him that are good for noobs. So that said, if you are aware of what the Thing does, I will stick a timestamp in the description so you can skip the ability rundown, skip straight to the thoughts, counterplay, node consideration for Alliance War, as well as the gameplay. I'll duel someone in my alliance after this, but if you don't know what he does, let me go through his abilities really quick. So for his Awakened ability, when he charges a heavy attack, or when he is stunned, he gains a 70% damage reduction against special attacks, which is really nice, just kind of in the long run, but you know, it also means that you don't need to have him awakened, which is really good for me, since I don't have a Science Awakening gem. His passive is he is immune to bleed, shock, armor break, armor shatter, nullify, stagger, and fate seal effects. You know, that's part of the reason why he's such a frustrating defender. Just because you can't, like, you know, nullify the rock stacks as you go up. And then the immune to bleed means that I get to run him with my suicide masteries and not feel like I am hardcore punishing myself in the long run. He generates 1 rock stack when struck or when blocking a hit, and an additional 4 with a well-timed block, which means 5 if you get a parry. And Thing removes 3 rock stacks when he would receive a bleed. This can only occur once every 2 seconds. Because he is immune to bleed, just kind of a notice there. When the rock stacks last indefinitely, up to 15 stacks. Any additional rock stacks last for 5 seconds, and the rock stacks are capped at 20. And for each rock stack, he gets a ton of physical energy and energy resistance. And when a rock stack is removed or the duration expires, Thing gains a permanent passive fury granting 40.56 attack, which is not a lot isolated, but when you multiply it by the cap of 60, it more than doubles his attack in the long run. So there is a lot of ramp, and it ramps incredibly quickly in a fight. When attacked and he has 15 or more rock stacks, he becomes unstoppable for 5 seconds and removes 3 rock stacks instead of generating any additional. Pardon me. Sorry, pardon me. Special attacks. When he uses a special attack for the next 8 seconds, Thing's attacks nullify all unstoppable buffs when striking the opponent. That is most notably a Unstoppable Colossus counter play mechanic. There are more, but I'll talk about those after the ability rundown. His special one for each rock stack deals increased amounts of damage, a lot of increased amount of damage. If he has 15 or more rock stacks, he removes them and the special is unblockable. And if he has 20, it also applies a weakness, reducing opponent's attack by 70%, which is useful but not worth the recoil damage I'll be taking. Special 2 staggers the opponent, preventing them from gaining their next buff for 6 seconds. If he has 15 or more stacks, it's unblockable, and at 20, it stuns the opponent for 4.5 seconds. So you really, you know, in order to get that 20 stack thing, you really want to get like a parry and then a medium special kind of a thing. And his special 3 is the Thing goes unblockable, unstoppable for 8 seconds, and if the Thing has 15 or more rock stacks, he removes all rock stacks and he gains a passive fury for 8 seconds, increasing his attack by 540.8. Plus, if he has 20 stacks, all his fury effects are 100% stronger for 8 seconds. That means if you use a special 3 and you have 20 rock stacks, and you're completely capped on all 60, your base attack is like over 3 times as effective, which is absolute mad in the amounts of damage you can deal with the Thing if you ramp him up properly. That said, he has some synergies here. Whoops, wrong button. He has some synergies here. So the Brave and the Boulder, sorry, the screen's not easy for me to read. The last hit of Special Attack 2 grants a Fury buff for 6 seconds, increasing attack by 15% of base attack. This effect is doubled if all other champions in this synergy are present. So my guess is this question mark will probably be Mr. Fantastic, but I doubt that you will run a Human Torch Invisible Woman Mr. Fantastic synergy when he's got such amazing other synergies. But if you double up on the Human Torch, when the Thing is at 20 rock stacks, any additional stacks he gains are immediately converted into passive fury effects. That just helps you build up a lot faster. That one I could actually see you running if you're not using Thing as a boss champion. Just something to be considerate of. If you pair him with Korg, the thing gets Fury effects generated from removing rock stacks are 33% more effective, so that's always worth. And if you have the champion, once per fight, when the thing would be struck by a blow that would knock him out, his HP remains at 1 and he becomes indestructible for 6 seconds. Any hit he receives while indestructible grants him a Fury of 100% for the rest of the fight. And with Hulk Ragnarok, he just gets boosted critical damage rating. Typically, people bring the thing. There are other synergies I should mention, which are like the Heimdall synergy for, also that indestructibility. There's a Hela synergy that I'm not quite sure about. And then my Alliance member also said Heimdall, Hela, and an Angela. I think the Angela is for boosted Fury, but I'm not quite sure. So if you know, feel free to comment so other people can see it, but I'm not quite sure from there. So at this point, I'll stick a timestamp. That's the ability rundown. And now I kind of want to talk about, gameplay / Alliance War nodes. So first, if you're placing this guy as a boss defender, I highly recommend you either run Heimdall or the champion for the synergy. Both of them are very good. The champion would be better because you also get the champion as a node, and champion is a very good defender. But other than that, you can run anyone else. But do take advantage of like the Korg synergy or the Human Torch, as those are potentially very strong defenders. But very specifically, I want to talk about 3 nodes that I think the thing is very good on. So I think the thing is very good on buff toggle unstoppable or buff toggle unblockable. I think this is an incredibly annoying way to place him because the thing requires a lot. Like if you don't bring a bleeding champion and you don't bring ability accuracy reduction like Black Widow, you have to play around the mechanic of baiting a special after you get him to 15 stacks. And so in this manner, if he's unstoppable or unblockable, a thing coming at you is a lot harder to deal with, and does require like proper dexing, and can really lead to players making mistakes. And so having both the if you make a mistake and you hit him, he goes unstoppable, as well as having the if you make a mistake and the timer is unstoppable or unblockable. It's just a lot more timers to watch out for, a lot more of the same buff. And while it is a little bit redundant, the redundancy makes it harder to deal with. There is something to be said for stacking redundancy and kind of like frustrating players in that regard. Additionally, I think placing him on Aegis Heavy or Aegis Intercept is very frustrating, just because he does have that unstoppable, that unblockable. So if you are timing into him and he's building up, like, you do got to be careful, and you might have to punch into his block intentionally, and that's just a lot of wasted time. Plus, this guy just has a lot of physical and energy resistance, so when it comes to like forcing players into a timeout, which I think is one of the better strategies when it comes to the Aegis Heavy and the Aegis Intercept, I think the thing really capitalizes on that. And then finally, if you stick him on an all or nothing node, this is actually one of my favorites. If you stick him on an all or nothing node, people have to bring a anti-thing counter. They cannot just bring anybody and mechanic their way through it. They have to bring a bleed champion. They have to bring Black Widow, some form of specifically targeting thing counter. And when you do that, the consideration I want to bring up, I have notes here, is that if you do that, you can expect Massacre, Blade, Ronin with an eye, Nick Fury as like common options people will take into the thing. Maybe like Domino as well. But because you know that if you stick them on an all or nothing node, you can stick on the other all or nothing node a Domino, a Mr. Sinister, a Omega Red, because those are champions that are going to punish bleed champions. And now what you've done is in the same path, right? Because with the new alliance war, you can split off, and like someone could take this path and then choose a different one and veer off. But just on the same 2 nodes, someone now has to dedicate one of their champions to anti-thing and one of their champions to anti-whatever else you insert there. And in this regard, you really screw them. And yes, very good players will still be able to clear, but Alliance War is all about stacking your defenders in order to make it as hard as possible for the attackers. And sometimes, especially in the lower tiers, people don't have, that champion variety, and, they're going to go, oh, it's a Domino all or nothing and a thing all or nothing. Like, that's not exactly a node you want to run into. Or maybe it's Domino and the thing on Aegis Heavy, Aegis Intercept. Like, that's going to be an incredibly frustrating path to go onto. Just things to consider. So that said, I think that the Thing can be an incredibly frustrating defender, but I also think he has a lot of potential as an attacker. As an attacker, I think that you should really slow play the fight. I think that because his damage ramps up, you don't want to be spending a lot of time, you know, ramping up and then baiting out specials. So let's see. Goblin is my friend here. This is the person I typically like to duel. He's got a blade. Actually, I don't want to duel a blade just because that doesn't do us any good. So let's pick someone else here. Hero rating. My apologies. I'll find someone else in my alliance to duel. You got you confused. Blade. Domino. Blade. Wow. Blade. Blade. This is absolutely ridiculous. Hey guys, get some champion diversity here. Okay, we'll go up against the Hood. We'll give him class advantage. That's a meme. I mean, Blade's a great champion. I don't blame these guys at all for having him ranked up. So let's go ahead and dive in and let me show you. I believe you should slow play it. So go for the parry start. Tap him twice. Oh, I'm bad. But look at how tanky I am. Like, you don't take... I know the Hood doesn't do any damage really, but... So now I'm building up stacks, and now I can punch into him. And this guy just does absolute work. Absolute work. And I'm by no means a great player. I don't play the Thing ever. But you can just see from like that small fight, like how incredibly forgiving he is for new players. You know, I made so many mistakes in that, and the reason I think you should play him is, you know, you really want to ramp your damage up so you can just punch into them for max damage. But the major thing is that every time I made a mistake, right, you're sitting at like 15 stacks and you make a mistake, you take a hit you shouldn't supposed to, normally you get comboed into, but the Thing goes unstoppable, and as a player you just get to not get comboed into. You get to counter strike, you get to interstep back, and there's a lot of mechanics that go on there that really make him very noob friendly. I could have played that fight a lot better. I'm not trying to pretend like I'm a great player, but if you are a newer player and you have a Thing and you're like maybe struggling with some of the mechanics of the game, I think that Thing is a very good rank up. I think that when you consider the higher tier champions like Ghost, or Ronin or Archangel, or these champions that, well, okay, maybe not Archangel, but like Ghost, you know, notably these champions that require like high skill play in order to really maximize, because when they get punished they just die. I think the Thing has you on the opposite end, where you get this tons of free damage, this huge tanky attacker, and you just get so much out of him. I'm absolutely loving it because, well, it's easy to play, and sometimes you just need that when you're pushing harder content. You need that forgiveness window to practice baiting specials, practice dodging specials, and just an absolutely wonderful character to have in my roster. And when I'm ready to hang him up on the shelf, when I'm past the point of using the Thing, he'll sit on my defense line as a starter. So that said, those are my thoughts on the Thing. Probably nothing special, but I was really excited to pull this guy, so I wanted to put my thoughts out there. That said, this video has gone on longer than it needs to, and I will talk to you later.